Hello and welcome back to We Need to Talk About, your one-stop podcast for everything film and music. Today I'm joined again by Tom to do part 2 of 20 films you need to see before you die.
Adam, what's going on? Why were you... Last week you lied to me and said this was a meet and greet.
Yeah.
And this week you've brought me to a cinema to say that we've got a special screening.
Yeah.
Of the new Captain America film.
Captain America song?
Yeah, the Captain America song from the new film. The credits song, pretty much.
Oh yeah, I'm Steve Rogers. Oh yeah, no I'm not. Oh yeah, I'm not Steve Rogers. I can't remember his name. Yeah.
It's the Falcon.
Yeah, but what's his alias?
You bring up a great question there, Adam. Let's just call him Anthony Mackie.
Yes.
For the sake of
argument. I'm not Steve Rogers. Oh yeah, I'm Anthony Mackie. Oh yeah, I'm not Steve Rogers. Oh yeah, 'cause he's dead.
Yeah. Well, you brought me here to this cinema to listen to that.
Yeah.
And then you gave me this microphone.
Yeah.
And said, do you mind if we talk for a little bit?
Yeah.
So this is why we're talking again.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's to finish the list that we started last week.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't you say we did 6 films last week?
Yeah, I miscounted.
You did miscount, because how many did we actually do?
5.
Okay, so
Which is what you said.
You're just lying to your audience now.
Yeah.
Then. That's fine. Can we all lie to the audience?
No, it's only me.
Only
the host gets those privileges.
Well, we may as well get on with this then.
Yep. On to my number 5. We have Shaun of the Dead.
That is a fantastic pick.
It is, isn't it? It's a great film. It's released in 2004.
2003, is it not?
No, 2004.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, because I did my research.
Okay.
It's 2004. Directed by Edgar Wright, one of my favourite directors of all time, who I may or may not be doing a full episode on shortly. Teehee.
Who's a special guest? Or are you bringing the movies guy back?
I don't know yet. I've not decided yet.
But it seems as you are lying to your audience. It wouldn't surprise me if you said you're bringing in Edgar Wright for that episode.
Imagine.
So, Adam, why is Shaun of the Dead at your number 5?
It's just a brilliant comedy film.
Correct.
It has everything. It has love. It has loss. It has zombies. Everything you need for a good comedy film. And it stars Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
It does.
It does.
This is their first film together.
Yes.
Obviously, they'd been on Channel 4's Spaced, which was also made by Edgar Wright.
Yep. This was actually Nick Frost's first acting role in a film.
Yes.
Yeah.
I imagine it was Simon Pegg's as well, or was Simon an extra in something beforehand?
I think he was probably an extra in something beforehand, because Nick Frost wasn't originally meant to be getting into acting.
Yeah, he did it because he was Simon's friend, wasn't he? So
he just helped Simon out with Spaced.
Yeah.
And just kind of fell in love with acting, really. So, there was an episode of Spaced, surrounded by zombies, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost just went, this is not long enough. Let's make this into a feature film. So they did.
The result started multiple careers.
Yes.
They wouldn't have made Paul with Seth Rogen.
They wouldn't.
They hadn't have made this.
Yeah, that film. Yeah. A lot of people think that that's part of, the Cornetto.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's just because...
It's because it's got Nick Frost and Simon Pegg as the 2 lead actors.
Yeah.
So people assume, but it's...
when they are the lead actors in a film, besides Paul, name another one that isn't in the Cornetto trilogy.
I cannot.
See, at the time of recording this, it was Valentine's Day last week. Would you say Shaun of the Dead is the perfect Valentine's movie?
Oh, 100%. Definitely. It came out on Valentine's Day, actually, in 2004.
Oh, that's even more trivia. That's
Yeah.
trivia I wasn't aware
That's
of.
trivia cubed. Do you want trivia to the power of 4 next?
If you've got it.
I do.
If you can dish it out.
So, all of the zombies in the film were all just fans of Spaced. They weren't proper actors, apart from like the main ones that you see that actually do stuff. Especially like in the scene outside of the Winchester, when there's just a big swarm of zombies surrounding them. They were all just fans of Spaced, but they couldn't just have them as volunteers. So they paid them all £1.
Even though that's not a lot.
I would do it.
Think about in 2003 or 4, depending on whichever one of us is lying.
Well, there was two.
Imagine how many Freddos you could have
I
bought.
know. I was just about to say that you could have got. So there were either 10 or 15p at the time. So you could either have got 10 or about 8.
How many gallons of milk do you have got back then for that amount? I'm fairly sure milk used to be free.
I was 2. So in Shaun of the Dead, Shaun and Liz, his girlfriend, break up because Shaun isn't doing enough for Liz to stay in the relationship, and he makes it his main task to win her back the next day. But as it so happens, the next day, a zombie outbreak broke out, and everyone turned into a zombie, apart from Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Simon's girlfriend, Simon's mum, Simon's stepdad, played by the amazing and wonderfully talented Bill Nighy.
The science guy.
No, that's Bill Nye, not Bill Nighy.
I thought it was pronounced 90.
No, that's the dress you wear to bed.
So, my number 5 then. It's in a horror vein. It's not a comedy like Shaun of the Dead is. Just sort of a horror, more of a detective thriller. But it did give one of the lead actors an Oscar for his performance as this particular villain, because of how good his performance was and how just unnatural and unnerving, uncomfortable it felt to watch him. From the director of Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads live concert film, it is Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, right.
Anthony
Hopkins. Isn't it?
Anthony Hopkins, yes, won the Oscar for it.
Yeah.
So, yes, Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar for this film. He's only in the film for 10 minutes, but it's a very, very powerful 10 minutes when he's on screen. It's really incredibly captivating and unnerving stuff. But the lead in the film is played by Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
And it's a detective not whodunit film, but we got to catch the bad guy film. So she works for the FBI, and she's trying to track down Buffalo Bill. But to aid her in this, she visits Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter. If you want another piece of trivia, he doesn't blink when the camera's on him. No, if it's a scene of him and he's looking at the camera, he's not blinking. Mr. Maker.
Yeah, Mr. Maker never blinked.
Is he a psychopath?
No, he was just an artist.
I know he's an artist, but
he was on CBeebies.
I know.
I am a shape. Do. I am a shape.
I'm not that much older than you to not know who Mr. Maker is. But
yeah,
I don't remember the finer details. I don't remember as a child watching this thinking, "Oh, this is just like Silence of the Lambs." This guy. Interesting. I'd never, as a 4-year-old, I wouldn't have realised that.
Yeah.
So nice. At least you can draw parallels from Mr. Maker to Silence of the Lambs.
I never thought I'd be able to do that until just now.
Yes, Jodie Foster is trying to track down Buffalo Bill, who is kidnapping women to make a skin dress from their skin. But yeah, definitely, this film isn't the easiest to watch for some people because it is quite graphic. It's very grounded in reality and shows you, how disgusting this kind of line of work can be dealing with, cases such as this. So
Yeah.
it's not one for the, people that, start to feel sick quite easily.
So me.
Maybe, yeah, there might be, there's a few scenes where you might have to look away.
Yeah. I couldn't sit through Brightburn if you've seen that.
I have seen Brightburn.
Yeah. I ran into the kitchen twice.
That's concerning. I don't even think there's that. There's not even.
It is bad.
There's one scene where Badger from Breaking Bad has a incident when he's driving home.
That was one of the things that I'd run out of the room into the kitchen for. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Boo.
I'm not good with gore. Okay.
Okay, but yeah, definitely check this film out if you can. It is a must watch, especially for if you are interested in getting into Hannibal, or like wanting to see something that he's in. I'd say definitely if you want to see Best of the Best first, check this one out first.
So Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lamb.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd say if you wanted to marathon them, do this one. Well, if you wanted to marathon them, start at the start with Michael Mann's Manhunter, which has Brian Cox play.
It's in The Astrophysicist.
No, as it.
So, on to my number 4. We have The Breakfast Club. Have you seen it, Tom?
It's certainly a film on my watch list. It's not a film I don't understand how I haven't seen it yet.
I don't understand how you haven't seen it, because it is genuinely one of the best films of all time.
Yeah, I love the 80s and 80s films. So
it's actually what got me into 80s cinema. Was this film? That's why I've put it on the list.
Name every 80s film you've ever seen.
Whitney Houston. I'm everyone. No, that's Every Woman.
That's also a song.
Yeah.
Okay, so sell The Breakfast Club to me.
So basically, it's about 5 teenagers in America who are all completely different from each other, and they all get weekend detention on a Saturday.
They've been naughty.
Yeah, they've been naughty. And they're nothing like each other from the start. Like, that they're not necessarily going to get along. And basically it just shows them in detention starting to form bonds with each other.
Okay.
And in the end we realise that they're actually more alike than we thought at first. It's a feel-good film. It really is. It just detailed 80s school life in America, really. It's directed by John Hughes, who also directed 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Right.
Another 2 amazing 80s films.
Yeah.
And it starred some really big actors, including Judd Nelson.
Okay.
And Molly Ringwald.
Wow.
Molly Ringwald specifically is quite big now. She was in a lot in the 80s and 90s. So one piece of trivia about this film.
Oh, he's back at it with the
trivia. I'm back at it with the trivia. There's a scene where they're all sat on the floor discussing why they're in the detention. And that wasn't in the script at all. The director, John Hughes, just went, right, this scene, you're just going to discuss why you're in this detention. Choose it yourself. And all the actors just decided themselves why their character was in detention.
Well, if the actors have got good chemistry together and they've got their characters down really well, why not improvise and
exactly.
And
I think that really helped with the chemistry of the film. It also must have helped the actors discover their character a lot more to put in an even better of a performance. Especially as they were all teenagers at the time.
Well, I think getting the actors involved in their characters certainly is one way to have them be more invested and get a more naturalistic performance out of them sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very much, like I said, a feel-good film. It's just one to put on if you're having a bit of a bad day
Yeah.
and you just need a little pick-me-up. It will make you cry, but it's like, it's the kind of film that will induce a healthy cry. You know? Like, when you need to cry.
Well, I didn't think it would go like this.
Yeah.
So it's a feel-good film that will make you cry.
It'll make you happy cry.
Okay.
Basically, it's like, it's just because of how beautifully shot it is and how like beautiful the story gets towards the end.
And what is crying?
I don't know, Tom. I can't do it either. Anyway, shall we move on to your number 4, Tom?
If we have to, Adam. My number 4 is from the director of Dune Part 2 and Dune Part 1.
Oh!
It's the Blade Runner 2049 film that came out. It looked stunning, the trailers were amazing, and then nobody went and saw it.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, until June, well, in fact, until June Part 2, because June Part 1 was a COVID film, so that didn't earn much money either. So until June Part 2, Denis Villeneuve didn't really have a big box office hit.
No.
And this was kind of aimed at his first big one.
Because it was a revamp of
It was a revamp of
80s film.
much loved 80s film. It had a great cast. The trailers made it look good. And yet nobody went and saw it. And then maybe that's because it's 3 hours long. But to those, I don't see why. The film has great pacing. So, and it's played off as a mystery. Again, similar to Silence of the Lambs, you're constantly with Ryan Gosling trying to figure out.
I love Ryan Gosling. He's my favourite Ryan.
He's definitely one of the good Ryans.
He's my favourite Ryan.
Is that because he's in Barbie?
No, definitely not.
Is that because he's in Place Beyond the Pines?
No, it's because he's
In The Fall Guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he's not.
He is. He's in The Fall Guy.
Yes, he is. I was thinking Free Guy.
Correct. That's a different Ryan.
Yeah,
You're getting your Ryan.
That's the Ryan that I still like, but not as much as Gosling.
Yes, Ryan Reynolds, famously from The Voices.
And the Green Lantern.
Yes.
We're not going to discuss his other superhero film, though.
No, we're going to discuss different Ryan's Blade Runner 2049 film, which also has Harrison Ford in it, who really was spoilt in all the marketing, maybe because it's Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And he's a big name, but he shows up halfway through the film.
Oh.
And it's set up like we didn't realise Harrison Ford was going to be in it, so if you went into it not knowing Harrison Ford was in it, it would have played off much better.
You should, from the first one, you should probably guess that he's in.
Maybe.
Although I've not seen either, so I don't know how the first one ends.
Well, the first one also wasn't a box office darling. It didn't make that much money.
Was it just like kind of a cult classic?
Yeah,
then?
it became a cult classic.
Yeah.
If you are going to watch the first one, watch one of the special edition versions of it. I think it's called the Final Cut.
Yeah.
Because the original theatrical release of Blade Runner has a narration by Harrison Ford over it throughout the film. And the funny piece of trivia about that is that everybody knew that having narration over it would spoil the film.
Yeah, because you meant to show, not tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was a studio mandate that they had to have narration over the film. So Harrison was like, right, okay. So he went into the booth and recorded the most dog shit narration you could ever imagine. Like, you know what Harrison Ford's like. He's mardy sometimes. He doesn't like, having to do work sometimes. So he went into the recordings booth and put on the absolute worst Marty's voice. He's like talking like this. He's like,
Yeah.
And he does the entire thing, and he's like, yeah, the studio aren't going to use that. And they used it. Yeah. So keep away from the theatrical cut of the first Blade Runner film.
So I do have a question about Harrison Ford.
Okay.
Did he enjoy 2049 or not? Because I know in a lot of films that he's in, he then, in interviews, just lambasts the whole film. And he just he just doesn't really like acting.
You know, I don't know about this because the film is, in my opinion, a masterpiece.
Mhm.
It's expertly crafted.
The only films that he's actually liked doing were the Indiana Jones films.
Yeah. Anyway, Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's, if you have seen the recent Dune films with Timothy Chocolate,
Yeah.
this has the same amount of
Timothy,
polish.
you'll never have chocolate like this.
Yes, this has the same amount of like polish and detail in the world building that those films have, but
Alright.
for Blade Runner, which is something that dystopian future is something I prefer visually. This film also has one of the only Jared Leto performances I like. Rather incredible. He plays a blind tech, like Jesus, pretty much, that started remaking replicants, even though it's banned now at this time in the story. But he's like, it's more like he's making them to like better the human race instead of using them as like workforce, like what Tyrell was making them for in the first film. But yeah, this is just, if you have seen the first Blade Runner and enjoyed the style but thought it was a little dull and boring in parts, put this one on and your mind will be just like, it cranks the original up to 11. I think it's one of the director's best films, even though Dune is his like box office darling.
Yeah.
I prefer this. So yeah, give it a watch with Ryan Gosling. I give a thumbs up there.
Yes.
I don't know why.
So on to my number 3. We have The King's Speech, which was released in 2010.
Okay.
It's directed by Tom Hooper, who directed The Danish Girl, which is a great film with Eddie Redmayne in it, and Cats. But the less we say about Cats, the better.
Is that the Cats with James Corden?
James Corden and Taylor Swift, yeah. Yeah.
So The King's Speech, is it a Kingsman prequel?
No, it's nothing to do with Kingsman.
Well, that's a blatant lie. Again, you're lying to your audience again, Adam.
Oh, I'm not.
Colin Firth is in this, isn't he?
Yep.
He plays the king.
Yeah.
And then he's also in the Kingsman films.
Yeah, but he doesn't play a king in the Kingsman films. So it stars, as you said, Colin Firth,
Yes.
Helena Bonham Carter,
Oh.
and Geoffrey Rush.
Oh.
Yes. So it follows a true story, King George VI, getting ready to be inaugurated as king, when his brother, King Edward VIII, abdicated the throne to marry Wallis Simpson, as she was a divorcee, and the royals couldn't marry divorced people at that time.
Wait, her name was Wallis?
Wallis Simpson.
So she was named after two fictional animated characters.
Yes.
Wow.
It's like cheese donuts. But yeah, so it follows his reluctancy to this, as he has a speech impediment, and he stutters a lot. Shows him overcoming this speech impediment to be able to deliver his first speech as the king, and it's just a really good film.
It's a shame Colin Firth was in those Bridget Jones movies because he's a fantastic actor.
Yes, as I was saying. So Geoffrey Rush plays his speech therapist throughout the film, and he goes through multiple different methods of trying to help him.
Does he go through them quickly? Does he have to slow down at all?
No, it's quite like
So
a
he doesn't-
slow-moving film.
Well, okay, that's good. Because I would imagine working for the king, you would want to rush stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a slow-moving film, but it's well-paced.
Why isn't he called, what's his name? Jeffrey Patience. Why is his name not Jeffrey Patience?
Fuck's sake, Tom. I just realised it took me so long to clock on that that's what you were asking.
But I need to be called Jeffrey Slow Down a little bit.
Oh, God. Please stop.
So he
Yeah.
plays the king's like right-hand man that's trying to help him write and perform the speech.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, not necessarily write the speech, but perform the speech.
And does he
throughout his speech?
does he perform the real speech in the film?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So right at the end, when it's time for him to deliver the speech, Colin Firth delivers the actual speech. And the way they managed to do it was instead of him going out in front of the crowd and talking, which is how they always did it.
They had him stand in a room and had the crowd come into him.
Not quite. They did have him stand in a room, like just a small audio booth.
I
He
would
was
have thought
just
so.
by himself.
Right.
I think music might have been playing as well, saying that's what helped him relieve himself of the stutter was the music, which is actually proven to be a really good reliever of a lot of speech impediments. Is listening to music whilst you're talking.
That probably
finding the rhythm.
That probably depends on the song. If you're listening to Bangarang by Skrillex, I can't imagine it's the easiest thing, like easiest way to help you.
No, you just start
think
dancing
straight.
instead. But a couple of fun facts. Trivia again.
Oh
if
my
you will.
God, Adam! He's done it. More trivia.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
So, screenwriter David Seidler stammered as a child, and he was inspired by King George VI and his way to being able to do public speaking and everything. So he asked the Queen Mother if he could make a film about the struggles, which she said no to until she died. She was like, no, not until I die, because it'll be too painful to rewatch everything that happened, which he did adhere to, because she died in 2002, the film came out in 2010. He also, David Seidler, became the oldest person to win an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay at 73. But yeah, so it's a very empowering story, and it shows that like our weaknesses don't define us, and a lot of our weaknesses can be overcome. And yeah, so what's your number 3, Tom?
My number 3, I'm glad you asked. Now, I've been going to introduce a film. I've been saying another film that the director's made, just to see if, just to give you a little hint about what they've made. You'd probably I've said some pretty well-known films. You'd probably realise, the films I've been talking about. I'm going to switch that up this time. I'm going to ask you if you've not just seen any of these films, but if you've heard any of these films.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Have you seen or heard of The Brood?
I don't believe so, Tom.
Naked Lunch?
Wasn't that our last date?
A History of Violence?
Same question.
Videodrome?
No, I've not seen that one.
The Fly with Jeff Goldblum?
I have heard of The Fly.
Okay.
I've not seen it. but I
Yeah,
have
if you're not comfortable with gore, I would highly recommend not watching.
Yeah.
No, I would highly recommend watching that film.
Alright, yeah.
The Jeff
It's not
Goldblum
body horror at all.
The Jeff Goldblum Fly film is emotionally horrible. It is so upsetting to watch. But that's not the film I'm talking about.
Okay. Thank God.
If you haven't guessed by now, the director I'm talking about is David Cronenberg. And I'm going to be talking about his film, The Dead Zone,
Okay.
which is based on a Stephen King novel. But this isn't a horror... Well, at the time, it wasn't really a horror film.
Okay.
However, in today's world, I see it as a horror film.
Right.
Because the film is kind of like a look at the horrors of, the political landscape and, the issues of what we could get into if we elected the wrong person. That may seem okay, but turns out to be a horrible person. So in the film, Christopher Walken is in a car crash, and he wakes up a few years later after being in a coma, and he finds out he has telepathy powers. He can see visions from people's futures and people's pasts.
Okay.
He has the gift of visions, but he has to like hold somebody to see specific visions. So when he we get introduced to this,
is that telepathy or is that more clairvoyance?
it's kind of, what would you describe telepathy as?
Well, telepathy is reading people's thoughts, not seeing their future and past. That's clairvoyance.
I'd say it's a bit of a mix of both, Dan.
Yeah.
Because we first get introduced to this when he wakes up. The first person he does this to is the doctor character that's been helping him.
And he sees there a reference to this film in a Treehouse of Horrors episode?
Maybe. I know there's a lot. I imagine David Cronenberg's referenced a lot in Treehouse of Horrors as well as Stephen King.
I believe there was an episode of Treehouse of Horror where there was a segment where if Ned touched anyone, he could see how they died.
This isn't. He doesn't see how they die.
Okay.
This is just like he sees specific visions that are important, or that were important. So we get introduced to this when he grabs his doctor for the first time, and we see a flashback to the Second World War, and we find out that the doctor's mum had to abandon him and run, not only to save her child's life, but to save her life, because they were being forced out by the Nazis. And he tells the doctor that his mum's still alive and that he knows how he can get in contact with her.
Right.
So that's how we're kind of introduced to this telepathy thing. And Christopher Walken's character, like, he's a good man, but he's been given this gift, and we see throughout the film how, because the film jumps in through time quite a few times, and we see that he starts to struggle with his power. Like, he sees it more as a curse that's been given to him than anything helpful, productive, until near the end of the film, when he discovers that his ex-girlfriend is working for this new mayor that's going around, and he's like promoting himself to be the next president. He wants the presidency, and Christopher Walken bumps into him, and he touches him, and he sees that this guy, who's like a businessman, actually wants to destroy the world. Like, he's going to set off nuclear codes and bomb like China and Japan, like foreign places like that.
Kind of sounds like something that a certain leader.
And that's why
doing
I
now.
see this film as a horror film now, because considering this film was made in the late 70s, it's one hell of a look at what we're living now in our present times.
A bit like Idiocracy.
I'd also like to say the man that's playing the president is Martin Sheen.
Right.
And in the film, he dresses like Trump does at the moment.
Okay.
It's an incredible... To say this is Stephen King, it's very well... he guessed our present times very well.
Yes.
Back in the 70s. Now, maybe Stephen King is clairvoyant as well.
Maybe.
Adam, what's your number 2?
My number 2, I'm very excited to talk about this film. My number 2 is Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton, the biopic?
No. Alexander Hamilton, the biopic.
Oh, okay.
So, it's a musical. First put on Broadway stage in 2015. And this specific version, which is on Disney Plus, was recorded in June 2016. And it was released in 2020 for the 4th of July celebrations on Disney Plus. It's written by someone who I've previously talked about on part 1, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yes, you've mentioned him. He was the music guy from Monsters, Inc.
Not quite.
Okay.
He was the director of Tick, Tick, Boom.
Oh yes, I remember you mentioning that film.
Yes. But it also stars Philippa Sue and Leslie Odom Jr., who are also both in Tick, Tick, Boom.
Huh.
Now,
when we set out, we said one film per director.
Yes.
So,
It's not directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, though.
Okay, so you get the pass.
I get the
Congratulations.
pass. I was very smart with this one.
You get the pass.
He wrote it, but he did not direct it.
You were definitely looking for the loopholes to try and find out how to get both of these films on, weren't you?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I was like, right, how can I get two of my favourite musicals in this list? But I have actually seen Hamilton on stage in London.
And which one did you prefer?
I liked elements of both. I like that in the film it's the original cast. But obviously seeing it live feels different.
Which one would you recommend to most people?
If you're just trying to get into it, I'd say watch it on Disney Plus, because then you're not spending a lot of time and money going out of your way to watch a stage show that you don't necessarily like. It's easier to just put it on Disney Plus, just relax a bit, just try and watch it, and if you like it, then go and watch it on stage. It's definitely worth going to see it on stage if you can afford it, which I know currently theatre prices are on the rise, as are all live entertainment, unfortunately.
Which version would you recommend me to go and see?
I would recommend you watch it on Disney Plus first.
Okay. Because I'm the movie guy?
Because you're the movie guy.
Fairs.
And then if you enjoy it
I'm
enough,
not the theatre guy.
if you enjoy it enough, you might be able to become
What's the
theatre
theatre?
guy.
Theatre's just a real life 3D movie.
Yes. Theatre is great. What can I say?
We spoke a little about the film. What is the actual plot?
So, it follows the life of Alexander Hamilton, who is one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. The first act is about the American Revolution in 1776. That was an excerpt from the show.
I didn't know they broke it down like that.
Yeah.
They're doing that early 2010 Black Eyed Peas kind of
Yeah.
vibe on it.
I mean, that's one of the things that I like the most about Hamilton, is that it incorporates so many different genres into one musical. Like, has some pop, some rap, some R&B.
So it's
as
like
well as
Drake's
some-
new album.
We're not going to talk about him. So don't link him to Hamilton, please. But it also has some traditional theatre tracks on it as well. But anyway, so then the second act is about how they built up America, but also dives a bit more into his family life. Because in the first act he gets married to his wife Eliza, and she gives birth to their first son Philip, who is Hamilton's only child shown in the film, but he actually had 8 children, but he didn't.
People got around back then.
They did.
Back in the olden times.
They did. But Lin-Manuel Miranda only wanted to put one in to not confuse the whole situation.
Yeah.
Because his first son Philip died very young as well, in a duel, which you do see in the show. But yeah, it shows the ups and downs of his life. So in the show he cheats on his wife as well. And then you see the repercussions of that.
Back then that would have been like
That was
death, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh well. Okay. Do they make
Pretty
the
much.
Constitution in the film?
They don't write it down or make it, but it is referenced throughout the film.
How's Nicolas Cage supposed to steal it if they haven't made it?
Not that film. Please don't remind me of that.
What's wrong with National Treasure? It's a Hamilton sequel.
Anyway, so Hamilton. Fun fact about the recorded version of Hamilton: it took 3 days to shoot.
Hey, whoa. Is this trivia?
This is trivia.
Oh,
I know how much
shoot.
you love my trivia, so. Yeah, it took 3 days to shoot. So, there was one shoot for the, so it had the audience atmosphere. Another day to shoot for, close-ups and crane shots. And then a third day for another audience shoot from different angles. And yeah, some of the best songs from it include the Cabinet Battles, which are basically just rap battles but two politicians just going at it at each other. Epic rap battles of history. Alexander Hamilton versus Thomas Jefferson. Begin. So yeah, it's a great musical. That, like I said, encompasses many different genres. Yeah, I definitely recommend anyone who's wanting to get into theatre watch it, and anyone who's like a big theatre buff anyway. They probably will have already watched it, but definitely watch it.
My number 2 is from the director of Nosferatu. Although I should just point out, not the original one. That would make
Robert
him,
Eggers.
That would make him over 140 years old if it was the original director, and not the Nosferatu from the 70s either, where the Nazi played the title character. That film was directed by Werner Herzog, who is a man that got shot on camera and acted like it was nothing. Okay, I am talking about, like as you said, Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers, the one who I told you were going to meet in the first part.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
alas,
as disappointed as I was, I get to talk about one of his films.
Yeah.
It's not Nosferatu. It is indeed The Lighthouse. Is Robert Pattinson from Twilight fame.
Yes.
And Willem Dafoe
from Spider-Man
from
fame.
Spider-Man fame. They're colleagues. They go to this really, really small island in the middle of nowhere, where they are lighthouse keepers. And they are the only two people on the island. Willem Dafoe is kind of obsessed by the lighthouse, and he wants to be the only one that actually works in the lighthouse, the light room where the bulb is, pretty much. He doesn't want to let Robert Pattinson go up there. He just wants him to do maintenance work.
Yeah.
But we also find out that Robert Pattinson, this is his first time doing this job, and he's come from America, where he used to be a logger. Like, the story of this film, the plot of this film is very simplistic. It's these two people, they go to an island. Over time, they become crazy and want to kill each other. Simple-ish plot.
As you would.
It's the themes and all of the imagery which turn this simple plot into a very, very thoughtful film where you really have to sit down and think about it and take your own, you have to put your own ideas through it. You have to think, well, what does it mean to you? There's multiple themes and different, things that this film could stand for. I heard there's one theory that it's about homosexuality. These two guys come to this lighthouse, getting close, but then the tensions, and it's like they feel uncomfortable. They don't want to, it's very, there are multiple themes that you could get through, and that's one.
When is it set?
It is set in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s.
So that makes sense why they're a bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
About possibly exploring their sexuality, because homophobia was unfortunately very big.
Yes.
Back then.
But for me, I see the film as almost like Robert Pattinson is already dead,
right,
and he has to fight to make it to heaven or the light. Pretty much. That's one of my.
It's like Among Us, when you die, you have to go back and complete your tasks.
What's Among Us?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're the film guy, not the game guy.
Okay.
Yeah. It's alright.
So, yes, The Lighthouse really is a film where, like I was saying, the plot is simple, but the themes you really do have to take for yourself. This isn't a film you can just put on in the background. Even visually, it demands your viewing. It's 4:3 and black and white, and all the shots are very precise. All the blocking is very precise. All the dialogue is very precise. I mean, Dafoe is incredible in it, he's talking in this like
Whenever it's
olden time language. It's not even like normal English. It's not even like jokey like yeehaw.
Ye olde.
Ye olde. It's not even like jokingly ye olde styled English. It's like proper dialogue that lighthouse keepers would have had back then, which is something why I love Eggers' films. It's because the attention to detail in the world building, because it seems as they are period films, is something that you've very rarely seen. Even in other well-known period films, the attention to detail is absolutely nowhere near what it would be in an Eggers film. So, yes, this is a must-see. Even if, like, you're not enjoying it, like, if you're sitting there scratching your head, you're just confused.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the film for you. But maybe...
Is it a thinker?
It is a thinker.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway. The themes are for you, the audience, to acquire and get from the film. But beautiful, fantastic acting. Sometimes it's not acting. Willem Dafoe is buried alive in the film, and they filmed that on the island outside in the freezing cold.
Oh, God.
So he's just getting buried alive for real. So fantastic acting. Right, Adam. It's the big one.
It's the big one.
It's number one.
It is number one.
Numero uno.
Numero uno. Number un. Not dos, not tres, no cuatro.
What?
Un. No, una.
What are you saying?
I don't know.
What are those letters coming out your mouth?
I don't really know. So, on to my number one.
What is it? What is it, Adam? Tell me.
It's a film called Mary and Max. It's an Australian animation film from 2009. Directed by Adam Elliott, who also directed Memoir of a Snail.
You know what? You stumped me here, Adam.
Have you not heard of Memoir of a Snail?
Only when discussing the films that we was going to pick for this. But it seems as the audience don't know that.
Yeah.
No. This is a film and a director and a country I've never heard of.
Well, surely you've heard of the country.
What country is it again?
Australia.
No.
Okay. Fair enough. You've never looked on a map.
What's
a
that?
map? I keep forgetting you're the film guy. Sorry.
Yes, I'm not the geography guy.
No. But yeah, so it actually stars someone that you talked about in the first episode.
Right.
It stars Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I did mention him.
You did mention him.
Yes.
Yeah. So it follows an 8-year-old girl from Australia, and she chooses a random name out of a phone directory and sends him a letter and becomes pen pals with him.
And is the name that she chooses randomly Tony Collette?
No. It's Max.
Oh.
So in the film, Max has ASD.
Right.
And it details the struggles of growing up with it. Although in the film it uses the outdated term Asperger's.
Right.
Which is now no longer seen in the medical field, as there's links to the doctor that it's named after and the Nazis. Yeah, it's a really good film. It's said to be one of the best representations of ASD in media. It deals with delicate topics really well, because it goes through a lot of depression, suicidal thoughts, suicide, childhood neglect and growing up neurodivergent. Deals with them really well. Yeah.
To say this is animated, it doesn't sound like a children's film.
It's not.
It also sounds incredibly upsetting.
It is.
Okay. So maybe let's just give a warning out there saying if you want to watch this film...
If you want to watch this film, make sure you
got a box
ready.
of tissues.
You got a box of tissues. But it is a very important film to watch because of how well it discusses ASD. and how it details what people with ASD go through
Right.
throughout their life. But yeah, it's a very upsetting film, but also a very beautiful film at the same time.
What kind of animation style is it?
It's kind of like a claymation style. Do you have any questions about Mary and Max?
I think we've got all the info. It's a animated film that makes you cry.
Yeah.
Which I feel like most animated films should.
They should. There should be more animated films that like make you actually feel things. It's kind of an art that's lost nowadays.
So, I may have lied at the start of last week when I said this list wasn't in any particular order.
Yeah.
And I know you're the only person that can lie to the audience.
Yeah.
So I feel sorry for doing you dirty there. But just to clarify, my list has not been in any particular order until now. My number one is my favourite film of all time. It is from the director of the 1984 Apple Macintosh advert.
Local hero to Middlesbrough?
He is a local hero to Middlesbrough, kind of. It is Ridley Scott.
Yay!
And the film is Alien.
I have heard
1979. I would hope so.
Yes.
I
have not seen it. I've seen bits of it.
You are completely missing out.
Well, I started to watch it. But...
Wow! Adam, my disappointment is immeasurable right now.
I just couldn't really get into it. It's just a bit too slow paced for me.
It starts off really slowly because it's supposed to be. You're getting introduced to the world, to the setting, to these characters, what these characters are doing, and all that builds up is perfect. And
I understand why it has a slow build up.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get into it.
That's disappointing.
Whereas the latest one I could.
But the first one is the true slow tense horror thriller. Just to the nth degree. This is a film that went from a $4 million budget to an $8.5 million budget because Ridley Scott did the simple thing of just storyboarding the first 30 minutes and then showing them.
Right.
Like that's in the 70s. That's just proving you had a clear vision for what this film would look like. It doubled the budget, and then they could go crazy.
Right. Yeah.
The spaceship set is just one giant set. So they're not different rooms. It's one complete set to make it feel really claustrophobic.
That's really
not
cool.
just for the audience, but the characters as well. And it is really cool. And then, see what I love about this film in particular is some films you can tell are just a singular vision, whereas this film is a true collaborative experience.
Yeah.
It was originally written by two people, and then Ridley Scott came on board, and then Ridley Scott found H.R. Giger, the designer for the Alien, and so there's two different set designers and costume designs. You got a guy for all the human stuff, and then H.R. Giger doing all the really, really weird shit. And you mix them together, and the contrast is incredible and haunting and beautiful at the same time. I do genuinely believe that this is a perfect film. And sure, a cynical mind would look at a few pieces and go, well, they haven't aged that well. Yeah. But to me, this is from the 70s, and this is when you could tell the cast and the crew were really trying. And, sometimes it just, if it didn't go too well, you use what you got. I'm talking specifically about a scene here where Ian Holmes' head is taken off, and they made like a latex model of his head, which looked okay for a while, but then slowly it started to harden. Right, and by the time they actually got to film the shot of it, it he was stuck with this giant smirk, and so it doesn't look fantastic, and it's quite a noticeable like edit between the prosthetic and Ian Holmes' real head coming out of the table.
Yeah.
But I can let that go because it is still all practical stuff, and they really were, you know, trying to do something different here. And there are a couple plot twists in the film which really stand out and make the film more interesting than most other horrors of the time. I mean, what really makes this film is the cast and the characters. They're just like normal people. They're just truckers. They're space truckers, pretty much. Like, it's not a big disconnect when you think, oh, the future, so they're not like us. Kendrick reference.
Yeah.
Like, these people are pulled out of the time we live in and then just put in a different time because they are the same class, let's say. Like, they're just working class people. It just so happens that in their time, their working class is transporting stuff through space instead of across countries. But yeah, the characters you can emotionally connect with, and the actors are also incredible and work together beautifully. You've got Sigourney Weaver. This was her first film.
Was it?
Yeah.
That's surprising. She did a very good job.
Yeah. Well, she did a lot of Broadway stuff. She was a theatre actor before.
I thought you didn't know what theatre was.
He's catching my lies out again. He's getting jealous because he's supposed to be the only person that can lie to the audience, and here I am lying. But no, she did a lot of theatre acting before coming to this. So, although this was her first film, it wasn't the first time she was acting. So you've got Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, who is like the level-headed captain, who plays it very well. You've got Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton, R.I.P. to both of them, that play these two, like, you can tell they're kind of friends, but all they do is like bicker at each other. Like, they get along, but you can kind of see that if they weren't on the job together, I don't think they'd get along that great.
We've all got friends like that.
Yeah, but those two are hilarious in this. Yeah. You've got...
is one of them the one who was brought back in quotation marks for Romulus?
No, that's Ian Holm.
Okay.
The android character who was also Bilbo Baggins in the Hobbit franchise. Who, again, as the android, to say it was like the first... I'd say it was one of the first times in cinema that an android had been trying to play it like just a normal human character.
Yeah.
Where you can only just tell every now and then that something isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an incredible performance. Not the only great British actor you've got in the film. John Hurt is also in the film. And he's like he's just like a level-headed normal guy that's like just trying to get along. And then finally you have Veronica Cartwright from the 70s version of Invaders of the Body Snatchers. And again, she is the character which embodies the audience. She's the audience character that's freaking out, is terrified and doesn't want to be there. And she plays that hauntingly well. You feel sorry for her, like, throughout the film. It's also, you'll like this bit of trivia, it's not in the original Alien film, it's not discussed. But somebody I mentioned earlier, Mr. James Cameron, multiple divorces man James Cameron, he made the sequel to this film called Aliens. Not Alien 2, Aliens. And at the beginning of that film, when Ripley is talking to the corporate office guys about what happened, behind her is a giant screen with all the people that died in this film. And it's got like loads of texts. Yeah. You have to zoom in to read it properly. Yeah. But if you zoom in enough, bearing in mind this is 1986, if you zoom in when Lambert, which is Veronica Cartwright's character's are, it says that she's a transgender.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was
I think I have
MTF.
heard of that, actually.
She was male to female, which just goes to show that although James Cameron may be not very nice person every now and then,
Yeah.
it shows he was forward thinking.
Yeah.
So shout out to my boy James
My guy.
Cameron. Now, have you got a number 0 on your list, Adam?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for coming on, Tom. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.